Skip, how surprised are you by this news?
I am pleasantly shocked.
Really?
To the point I'm still numb from this. We just heard about it about, what, an hour or so ago?
Yes.
I'm still dumbfounded to the point I'm kind of shaking over here because I can't really believe this is actually happening. We have had so many false bottoms to this story where we thought it was over, that I don't completely trust it. But obviously, this is the single greatest thing that could have happened to Jerry Jones and to Dak Prescott and to me, because this clarifies the whole situation. But the reason I'm shocked, pleasantly shocked, is I cannot believe that Tony Romo is choosing to walk away from the game of football at age 37, having played only 5 games over the last 2 seasons, and that counts the one game at the end of last year in which he played one series in a game that didn't matter at Philadelphia.
Correct.
That's the last we will have seen of Tony Romo, if in fact this is the end of Tony Romo.
It's a good picture, though.
What's that?
It's a good picture.
It's a good way to go out, I guess, if that's the way you want to do it, even though the game didn't count for the most part. But you were the one who said last week when the CBS offer came up, not to mention the Fox offer and maybe even an NBC offer, that you have to seize the day and take this. And I was shocked that you, of all people, would say that. But I thought, well, it's easy for Shannon to say it because he's got 3 Super Bowl rings. This guy has 0 Super Bowl rings because he never even came close to sniffing a Super Bowl.
Except that championship game that they would have went to
Well, yeah, they should have gone to the championship game in Seattle, but we know. Thank you for bringing that up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up. But look, this is just, I've observed this guy for so long. I don't know Tony Romo, but I know so many people who know him so well. And I just thought that the competitor in Tony Romo would not allow him to walk away unfulfilled because he's got little to nothing to show, as you always bring up to me, in the postseason for his Cowboy career. And again, he came from nowhere, from Eastern Illinois as an undrafted free agent in the Bill Parcells regime, thanks to Sean Payton, who said, I like that kid. Sean Payton obviously played quarterback at Eastern Illinois also. So you can say that Tony really overachieved. But in the end, the truth is, his willingness to walk away at this stage and age is maybe why I never really loved him, why I could never embrace Tony Romo, because I don't think he ever loved football the way Shannon Sharpe loved football and the way a lot of players, Ray Lewis that we have on the show, Chris Carr, loved football, where you just couldn't walk away unfulfilled. You were fulfilled. You got your 3 rings. You got your acclaim. You got everything you could have gotten out of your career as something of an overachiever yourself, right? As a 7th-round draft pick out of Savannah State.
Correct.
You're in the Hall of Fame. It's pretty great. But Tony's nowhere except he was a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. That's his cachet, which is a big deal because it's a hard position to play under the brightest spotlight, I think, in the NFL. And he managed to play it for a good long time at a fairly high level, sometimes a very high level. Very high risk, very high reward. No reward, though. No Super Bowl reward. No playoff reward. And so, in the end, Tony Romo, who I always said loved golf more than he loved football. Remember, he's tried to qualify for the U.S. Open golf. And finally, his doctor said, you can't keep doing this because your back's too bad. He's had the back surgery. He's had all sorts of shoulder issues, as we know, collarbone issues.
Correct.
And he finally, I guess, decided, I just don't want to do this anymore. I'd rather play golf, and God bless him. He'd rather be with his, now he's going to have 3 kids, and he'd rather do football a little bit every weekend, and I'm assuming he's going to take the CBS job. I don't know that for a fact, but this is as good a job as there is in sports broadcasting. Would you agree? It's one of the top jobs because this is the number, if in fact this is happening, it's the #1 analyst job alongside Jim Nantz for CBS. And again, we'd love to have him at Fox, but that's a pretty hard offer to walk away from. I guess I got to thank CBS for making Tony Romo the offer he could not refuse, because you kept bringing up these jobs come along every, I don't know, 20,
10, 15, 20
whatever
years.
years.
Absolutely.
And so in the end, I'm happy, thank you, CBS, for taking Tony away from Jerry Jones, because Jerry was not going to be able to give up on Tony Romo. Jerry had to be saved from himself. Jerry couldn't risk letting Tony Romo go. And we talked about this last week, and I thought Bob McNair, the owner of the Texans, nailed it because he said Jerry's between a rock and a hard place. If he lets Tony go anywhere, to Houston or Denver or wherever else he might go, it was too risky for Jerry because what if Tony comes back to haunt him? So Jerry was unwilling to give up Tony for nothing. I think he wanted significant trade in return, a high draft pick, whatever. And in the end, this saved Jerry from himself. It clarified everything. Tony cannot come back to haunt him. Tony now cannot haunt Dak Prescott by competing with and against him or looking over his shoulder next year as a Dallas Cowboy. And in the end, everything, the decks are cleared. It's a really good day for my Dallas Cowboys. My only regret is I wish this could have happened earlier before the free agent period because the reason I can't leap out of my seat today is Jerry has done nothing to his defense while his defense has gotten nothing but worse, as has his offensive line. So if you'd had a little more money to spend free agent-wise, they could have had an extra $5 million if this could have been clarified ahead of March 9th when the free agent period opened. So I'm not wildly excited, but I'm just relieved that maybe the quarterback situation, the offensive situation next year has clarified to the point that Dak Prescott can now heave a sigh of relief and become the superstar I believe he's destined to become.
Skip, I'm not surprised at all, but let's go back through this from the very beginning. Tony released a video the day before free agency saying goodbye. It had been reported that Jerry and Tony had sat down and talked on Tuesday, and Jerry was going to release Tony. Tony releases the video on Wednesday. Free agency starts on Thursday. About 2 hours into free agency, the Houston Texans trade Brock Osweiler to the Cleveland Browns and that $16 million guaranteed dollar contract for this year. Jerry's like, hold on. They traded Brock Osweiler, who we know can't play. I've got Tony Romo. Well, maybe I can trade him. Well, the do-right rule, Tony, I'm going to release you. All I'm asking you to do is not go to Washington. Tony says, okay. Boom. So here's where we are there. Now, all of a sudden, Skip, now remember yesterday the reports came out. Jerry is giving 31 other teams and their general managers an opportunity to talk to Tony Romo. Now, today...
Did that surprise you?
Hold on, check.
Okay.
No, this is what surprised me. Now they were going to release him today. So there's a lot of things going on, Skip. Somebody wasn't telling the truth all along. But this is what Tony started.
Well, I think they're going to release him because Tony told them last night, I'm going to take the CBS job.
Well, but here's the thing, though, Skip. This is what I think happened. Once Jerry Jones had dug in and he was unwilling to just release Tony Romo right at the start of free agency or a week into free agency, and he said, there's no timetable. I deal in ambiguity. This thing might linger on to a training camp. Tony knew nobody was trading for $24.7 million on their cap. No one was going to be willing to pay him between $14 and $19 million, what the Cowboys would have had to pay him if he stayed on their roster.
Unless you do an incentive deal that would pay you that if you cash in and get to the Super Bowl.
Okay. Now you saying Tony Romo, he would rather take the network offer. Tony Romo would have rather made $14 to $19 million. But he realized that was not a possibility.